what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Turn for Two.
This is Rob.
And this is Anthony. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy 2024, guys. Thanks for spending a little bit of your time with us once again this year. My New Year's resolution, you asked me that right before we came on. Other than, health things that I've been trying to do and been trying to stick to, is this. I want to do this the entire year. I don't want to, be like, I'm jaded. I don't want to do this anymore. I intend to be a quote-unquote content creator for this game, and I'm really enjoying doing that. So that is part of my New Year's resolution.
I hope you're to learn how to use YouTube and start uploading videos.
It's called You Teach Me. It's something you're supposed to do. I'm just excited to be doing this. This is a game that I really love. We've had a lot of fun conversations about it. We got a lot of ideas. As 2 pages now of ideas, things that we can try. I think this game's got a lot of life and a lot of legs, and I'm looking forward to it in 2024.
100%. Mine is partially to slow down a little bit. I think you kind of had this problem with Pokemon for a little bit, and I had it for a while where it's like, oh, we played for a while, and it was like, okay, now this kind of is boring, and it's kind of where I've gotten with this, and it's like, it's tough because the one nice thing with Pokemon is it's a little cheaper. This game is getting there, which we'll talk about in Stonk Review in a little bit.
Yeah.
But when certain cards like Steel Beasts, you run them in a lot of deck, it's like, when they're expensive cards or like Maleficent or Rapunzel's, which thankfully I now own 4 of each of those minus the Beast, but it's like, it's just kind of hard when there's these cards that are like $20 and it's like, do I want to build these for this deck I'm testing? It's like,
I think that's the beauty of testing. You test a deck. If you really like the deck, then you try to get the cards for it. But that is the exact same thing as Pokemon. So
right.
When you're playing Pokemon, you're like, I was big up on Roaring Moon. And then I tried to make it work in 3 different ways and couldn't.
Right.
And so then I was glad that I didn't spend the money on those extremely expensive cards. So that's true of any card game. Burnout is real. I don't disagree with you on that. It doesn't occur to me in this game yet. This game is too new. There's too many ideas to explore and metas to kind of solve and things like that. That's the same with any other game.
Right.
But I find that the price doesn't matter. Now, I'm not saying it's like, infinite money. That's not remotely what I'm saying. I'm saying if I want a deck with 4 beasts in it, okay, fine. I have to shell out for beasts or get lucky in packs. But also I can just test if I'm like, I don't really like that deck. I'm not spending the $40. And then since we're about to jump into Stonk Review anyway, we might as well talk about it. That's the only expensive card in this set. It's $40 now. It's going up right now, but it is that powerful.
Right.
So again, like your Charizards, when they first came out, even the basic one was $25.
Yep.
This technically still first came out. It's only been out for a month now?
Right.
Retail release a month. So yeah, that's a $40 card. But as we were saying in our other casts, that is a healthy game.
Yeah.
You want to play a game where you can open a pack that's going to have a $40 card in it because there are meta cards that have that value.
Right. And there's also good cards, which will, let's just jump right into Stonk Review. All right, so like we were just saying, we'll start with set 2. Beast Tragic Hero was 2 weeks ago. I think we said it was 28, and then last week it was in the 30s. And we said let's buy it at 28. Mm-hmm. It's now 42.
And that is in everything steel.
Yeah.
As we were saying when we reviewed the card a while back, just free extra card draw in this game is extremely powerful and in a color that otherwise doesn't have card draw. So I guess excluding Whole New World, but that's not a...
And even if you don't use it for card draw, if they damage it, you then have a 7/5 that kills almost anything.
Yeah, and it all costs 5, and it's only going to go up when there's a shift target that it can actually shift off of. I heard that there is a very interesting card in the new set that I'm not going to spoil now, but it was technically spoiled for me, and that could have some pretty interesting applications.
I haven't even seen it yet.
I haven't seen it, but I've only heard of it. It's very interesting. But as far as the rest of Stonks, I feel like you can safely buy at this point.
Yeah.
Alice and Arthur are your next 2 highest non-enchanted cards in set 2, both very good cards. The thing with Alice is it was like 5 or 6 when we were talking about it a while ago. So that's almost doubled in price. And I think that's because there's a lot of people kind of discovering what this card can do and starting to integrate.
And it has so many applications, being able to give everything support to everything, especially if you run it with Steel, which I think you were trying to do for a little bit. Mm-hmm. That beast is a 7/5. You give something else, that 7, it makes that thing basically a killing machine. Like
Right.
it can kill anything as long as it has a 3 butt.
And that was my main build with the Alice was you take the beast, either I'm drawing cards with it or I'm threatening a +7 on a beast for Alice, and she only needs 2 more.
And she turns for 5, right?
She turns for 5 when she gets to 10.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, here I'm gonna get myself to 8, and then something like Philoctetes is gonna get me there anyway.
Exactly.
That already has support. So here, either let me turn for 5 or let me draw a card.
It's something I've been working on. I'm still actively working on, not enough to discuss it yet, because I really just kind of dipped my toe back into that when I've been messing around with some Alice decks. But I'm not surprised to see that that's gaining some value. But again, I think you're perfectly fine buying that at 10 or 11.
Yeah.
I think that's going to kind of vacillate at that level.
And I mean, speaking of a healthy game, there will always be cards that are worth a certain. You can't expect cards to be worth pennies.
Right.
There are always going to be good cards.
The game's dying, I would imagine, at that point, because nobody's interested in buying them for that price.
The only enchanted I think that I thought was worth mentioning is the fact that Pete is almost down to $60, which I love that card, and I think it's so good.
I love that card.
So if you have a rarity problem like Rob does, and you like Pete, I think this is the time to buy them. I think
not a bad idea.
I think getting into the new year, I think especially the new set comes out game store release in
March.
February.
Isn't it March?
No, end of February. It's right before my birthday. It's the 23rd or the 28th.
Okay.
Is the game store release, and then beginning of March is the retail release. They seem to like to do the end of month game store, beginning of month retail release. Which
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that hot scramble. Still, everybody wants to get the cards when they come out. Don't get me wrong. That's still going to happen. But I don't know if it's going to have to be you and I plan to make a drive far away and, snipe a couple of boxes in order to get things. I think there's going to be some availability. And that, as we had said a few podcasts ago, was something that was promised to us. It's set 3 that they're going to be sealed boxes now instead of those little wafer cookie things. And they're going to ramp up production. So.
And I also think set 2 is kind of proven that they've already started ramping up production. It's
which I'm so happy about.
I think end of January, beginning of February, we are going to start seeing a little bit of a drought. And I could be wrong, but I think there's only so much set 2. And stores can say, like, certain stores have gotten allocations from other stores that have closed and don't want their stuff anymore. And there's a lot of stores that have to reapply and don't even want to deal with it and are just like, here's my allocation.
Yeah. So the people who are really dedicated really have access to getting those products. And I assume that means that they can bring their prices down to quote unquote normal.
Right. But
and that's what I expect.
Yeah. Aside from that, though, I do think nearing the set 3 release, there will be a little bit of set 2 drought where the price starts to go back up a little.
Yeah.
But after that, I mean, I walk into Target when most of the Targets restock cards, and you can see a lot of set 1 and set 2.
Yeah.
Does it last long? No. It's like when this is a weird comparison that I don't know if you'll get, but when in 2017, when Nintendo started printing Amiibo more frequently, it was Breath of the Wild came out, and they printed the ones for Breath of the Wild, and you could get them when they came out, and then that was it. You could maybe 2 days after, and I think that's what retail releases right now is. You can get them the day they're there, maybe a day later, but it's like if you wait till the end of the week after they've been stocked, you're not going to see anything.
Yeah, but at least there is those opportunities to get it in a store. Just like, oh, hey, I wish there's a couple of packs there, and hey, there just might be.
Right, and for people who are dedicated enough to the game, most Targets restock on the ones that I go to restock mostly on Thursday, Friday. The one near Josh, he said, is a Monday. I think the other one.
So they're probably all individual. That being said, Target now owes us money for us giving a shout out to them on a very popular podcast.
But it's like most people can figure out, especially if you play a lot of card games, when their Target restocks, and if you show up most of the time, they'll have it, and you shouldn't have a problem with it.
So this is going up.
Elsa?
Continuing on the Stonk review. So Elsa had dipped down to like $350 or so.
So pretty. That's why it's good. It's good and it's
great
pretty.
Card and it's gorgeous art. And this thankfully has stabilized too.
I'm shocked Maui is so cheap because that's also a card that I think is really good.
I'm surprised Maui's cheap. Maui. So you guys understand, we're seeing a current listing on TCG Player for Maui at $98. That is a solid 3 of in almost every red deck.
Surfer Stitch being $139. That was at 2 something at one point.
That is only for the art, because Maui gets played a lot more than Surfer Stitch does.
And I still think that's one of those cards. I think Enchanted's, to me, minus the one I traded for with the Pete, is I'd like to pick up a Stitch at some point as a collection piece because I love Stitch. But it's I know there's no point in you picking up an Elsa for $470.
No way.
At some market price is $406. So if one gets listed for a reasonable price and you're like, oh, I'm gonna like if you went in Orlando, if you offload a bunch of bulk and you're like, all right, I have $100 and something in bulk, and
Yeah.
this card's down to like 300 or 250, maybe I'll shill out for it.
Sure.
Just to have it sit on your desk with your Elsa pop.
That's actually made it onto the wall.
The wall,
if you'll notice.
I see that.
So that's an even more important position of prominence. So you're
Aladdin is
represented there.
Aladdin is 80. That's a card I know you love. I think
card.
if you want a good red card that will probably go up over time.
Yeah, so that's the only good art for Aladdin, because you can get a shiny Aladdin in the starter deck.
And they're like pennies, I think.
Yeah, they're 65 cents or something. So if you want to make your Aladdin pop, you need to do this. But again, this is all rarity problem things. Most people are just like, oh, this is a pretty thing, I hope I open in a pack, but otherwise have no interest in. Me, on the other hand, if it's something I love, it's something I know I'm going to run, a la Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, I want to get that place that just be like, because it's shocking.
Yeah.
When people are watching, like, whoa, and it feels nice for people just like, and then you slap another one down, like you have one, they're like, okay, that's cute, but you slap another one down, they're like, I can't believe it. And when it just adds for fun interaction.
And Ravensburger said they're going to always keep printing set one, and my guess is it will always be in rotation.
Yeah.
So I think these enchanted will go down more because they will be printed, but just being able to have these cards as 4-ofs, especially knowing this set will most likely be in rotation for a good 5-6 years, if not for the lifespan of the game.
Right.
It's like it's always interesting with the newer sets because it's like, all right, these are good, but it's like we don't know if they'll axe a certain set because something gets good. Set one, they always said they want to keep printing.
They said they will continue to print it. And if that means they're going to continue to print Enchanteds, I will eventually have an Elsa.
So aside from that, Maleficent Monstrous Dragon is up a little bit to 36. I think I bought mine around 30.
I still think that, again, as you were saying before, with these other cards, all of these are going to drop a little bit. But these are all quote unquote reasonable prices. A 37 market price on Maleficent Dragons and a 32 market price on Rapunzel's is pretty solid
for cards that will always have an impact on the meta. Rapunzel, I think Rapunzel will fall out of the meta over time. That just went up from when we looked at it earlier. Hades was $18. It's now someone bought the $18 listing, and now lowest listing is $19.25.
Another great card that
went up. It was $15,
and so that shows you again a health of the game. This is a popular meta card. It's a great card.
Yeah.
So you got to expect that it's going to have value, or else what's the point if every single thing is cheap? I guess sure. Then it gives access to everybody. If you want to do that, just play online.
Yeah, and I mean, with the Rapunzels, I think if they ever print a stronger healing card that also draws, I think Rapunzel will fall out of the meta. I don't think they will.
That's very specific to what she does.
Yeah.
You're right. That's true.
It's possible. I mean, there could be another card that does what the blue Hades does, and that could fall out of the meta.
What I like to see is all the staple base rare cards like Lilo, Grab Your Sword, Cusco, Maleficent, Let It Go. They're all couple bucks, which makes sense because you can get the easiest rarity, right? So when the game first came out and I sold 4 Maleficents for $12 each.
Yeah. I remember when you were trying to fiend for Cusco's and I had mine. They were like
$20
a piece. Yeah,
it was ridiculous. And now they're $2. So I definitely lost on that one, but I didn't care. It was not that much money, but. The long and short of it is, as far as stonks are concerned, with set one, we all have already talked about the fact that it is all going to drop, but it's interesting to see what is moving here because this kind of speaks to the popularity. And
it shows what's going on, what's getting played more, what's getting played less, what people are starting to play more and is getting discovered in tournaments. And
I'm going to leave this Namari open
so you can buy some Namaris. But with we're talking about tournaments, let's get right into. All right, so in our last episode, we talked about how there weren't any major tournaments because of Christmas.
Right.
As we record on a Saturday because of Christmas, that same day, there was a tournament that must have got uploaded the next day.
Yeah, the Fantasia store had the GOAT Capri Principesse. It's Italian, so I apologize. 163 players, so that's a pretty sizable tournament. Yep. What do you think won?
I don't know, Rob. Tell me.
It's another Ruby Amethyst list. Now, mind you, Ruby Amethyst has not been as popular, although it is still as powerful.
Yes.
I play against it a lot on the ladder, but that being said, I am so used to playing against it and what it has. It's easier to play around it.
Which I think that's why builds like yours with the Aladdin, I think, throw more people off because there's so many builds like if you look at the top 8 builds, I guarantee you all of them run the same stuff.
Yeah, most of it. Probably.
And it's like looking at those builds, it's like, okay, well, if everyone's running the same 60 or close to same 60, like I can figure out how to play around this. When someone throws a curveball in there, like the Aladdin, it's like, okay, they're at 18. Well, or I'm at 18. They're going to take 2 from me. I don't know what to do now.
Yeah, I've stolen a lot of games with that Aladdin. Now, mind you, I'm not saying that is the play.
Right.
But nobody expects.
Yeah. And
nobody expects the first one when you drop it and you're already bringing their lore down, which extends the game out for you and keeps you in it longer.
Then when you shift.
Then when you drop that shift and just turn it sideways, and I wish there was an exclamation point thing you could have on Pixelborn, because I would love to see that, how many people just shock face on that. So I'm not saying, again, my deck is the build, but I just like having a little bit of difference, but you can't deny the results. So well, I guess we'll talk about first place, since we were discussing.
You want to start from third and go?
I was originally going to, but we're already talking about Amethyst Ruby, so might as well just get it over with.
Yeah, I mean, it's also third, so we're talking about it.
Oh yeah, so it's at third as well. Wow. Okay, so first and third. We'll look at the third place list after. So this is again a pretty standard list. I'm seeing more Ursula.
Yeah, I think the spice of putting Ursula in there, which hasn't been seen a lot, is I think that's what's gonna start defining decks. Is we're gonna see a lot of the same stuff. And it's good. The decks that are gonna win are gonna start running these things that no one expected them to run. They're gonna run the Ursulas. They might run the Aladdins. They're gonna run.
You know what I don't see
a bunch of random 1-drops for some reason.
Is Elsa, which is one of my favorite things. You play Elsa, you bounce Elsa, you play Elsa. It's backbreaking. It's very, very powerful. I mean, it's the same. That's the slot. That Ursula slot is the Elsa slot in this deck.
Yeah.
I don't run the 6-cost Yzma. I think it is good. I think that maybe the only reason why you would run 6 1-costs, other than Teeth and Ambitions, which is really good against aggro, but I think aggro's dying down. We'll talk about that in a little while. It just looks like a very standard list to me. I still don't agree with a one of anything, although Spellbook is very powerful. I think it's important. It's what separate. That's how you win in the mirror. Is when you have the Spellbook and you're getting that little extra passive boost to your lore.
Yeah, and I think the Yzma's all right. I like it because you can shuffle your own character. It doesn't say chosen opposing character. It's just chosen character. So you can put your own character and draw 2.
That's why I think maybe the Olaf and the Minnie Mouse, we have 6 of them.
I also think it combos with the rabbit. You draw 3, shuffle the rabbit back into your deck. But
that's true too.
I just think that Elsa is so good especially I love running Scar in this deck.
I know you do.
Being able to exert with Elsa and then kill everything with Scar, it's like that's baby be prepared. And you don't wipe your board, and if you can turn.
So now let's look at the third place list to see if that had any significant changes. So I don't need this open anymore.
I would love for you to click on it, and it's just the same exact thing.
No, so this is a completely different list. So you see the Arthurs right out of the gate, which I like.
I love Arthur.
I think it's a very powerful card. It is a little slow, and this is kind of needs to be a faster deck. It has the LeFou in it, which I really like as well. I think that opens up a lot of lines of play. Runs for Maleficent, the 1-cost, biding her time. That is an interesting play.
I've seen it in a lot of Amber Amethyst aggro, which I'll talk about when we get to Cooking Time, that I'm helping Josh build right now. Is a lot of people put that down, and some people won't even. I mean, in Amber Amethyst they play the Simba,
sure,
but some people don't even turn with it right away. They just wait until they get the Arthur down, and then they turn for 2, and then turn for 3, and it's like you're turning for 5, or you turn with it and you have LeFou on turn 2, where you're readying it anyway, so it can't get attacked unless someone's teeth and ambitioning you.
Teething and ambitioning
you. Or snaking it up.
So when I look at this deck, I will tell you what scares me is the number of unankables. I didn't count them, but there's a lot of them. 3, 6, 10.
Yeah.
14, 17, 18, 19. 19 unankables.
It's almost a third of the deck.
That is scary.
Yeah.
So I couldn't run this deck. I would absolutely lose immediately.
You like the Pinocchio, though. You can talk about. I know that's your favorite.
Yeah, I think it's an underused but increasingly used card. The Talkative Puppet, the 1/1 that exerts a character when it comes into play. That exerting a character allows you to get around aggro because they are thinking, "Oh, I'm safe. I will do the Maleficent Arthur play and put my Maleficent back into play." But okay, now I'm going to tap that Maleficent, smack her on the head, and kill your Arthur. Have a good day.
It's also budget Elsa. It's cheaper and it doesn't keep them exerted. But if you're going to kill something, you might as well especially late game. Pay if you have 4, pay 2, exert something, pay 2 for the Queen of Hearts, and just slap something.
I like his sort of dedication to the bounce package with the Arthur in this, and I'm glad to see that both lists, both kind of the way this one is more similar to my build,
Yeah,
and then the other one is kind of the typical build. I like to see that both are doing well, but it's annoying to see another
the Shift Queen is also another thing that
yes,
it's interesting. I do think it's good drawing a card when challenge. It's a 4/3. It's fine. Shifts for 2, so you can shift it on turn 3.
And a lot of the cards you have in here are for challenging.
Yeah,
the Madam Mim, Maui, the Queen of Hearts.
The goat, if you just want the lore.
Yes, you want to throw the goat at things. A lot of these things do attack, so you can get a little extra card draw out of that. I feel you could get rid of the rabbit and then save up some uninkable slots in this deck. But again, third place. Might I say something?
Second place is Steel Emerald discard.
Where did that go?
Right
there it is. So when I look at this list, this is very similar to the list that I have been working on.
Right.
Kind of similar to what I don't know if we actually talked about it on
Talk about it. I think we did talk about it a little bit.
So it's the very standard 8 Flynn Riders, a couple of the 4-cost Flynn Riders.
Finn Nider.
And then your discard package, Sudden Chill, Hypnotize, the Lucifer, all of those things getting the discard going. The Bucky to give you additional discard when you're playing the rest of the cards, being the Beast Tragic Hero, the Jafar Dreadnought, and the Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, each of which are Floodborn.
Yep.
Oh, the 2 Flynns as well, also Floodborn. I think that it's a very fun deck. It's something I've been working on. It feels bad doing it sometimes when you do it, though. Because I have a soul, unlike a lot of players. And when I am just discarding everything and even getting that little extra juice off of Prince John, it feels bad because your opponent can't do anything. Unless they draw a really big draw card right there, they are locked out.
But to be fair, it's like, it does feel bad, but it's also, you play how many red-purple decks where they just keep blocking you from playing anything. Yep. So this is why I never feel bad.
Can't beat him, John.
Right. The only thing I'm shocked to not see is Whole New World over. I think Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo replaced it.
Well, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo in this is to blink Floodborn more often than not.
Also, I think double Lucifer discard and so double tank.
I told you when Lucifer sings Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, it's Bibbidi Bobbidi back breaking. That was hard to say.
The only thing I think is Whole New World is good late game when they have 14 cards in their deck and you can sing Whole New World.
Sure.
And then you can hard cast Whole New World and deck them out. It's like, especially when you're discarding a lot of things.
You love that as a discard strategy.
Well, if you're gonna play discard, you might as well go to deck someone out. Like,
I think you keep saying you want Whole New World because you love the Whole New World Prince John combo.
Yes, but that also decks you out. So it's like, I don't love it at the same time. I just think having a way to burn through your opponent's hand more efficiently. If they draw a bunch of cards and you can discard all of them, but it's slower, you can just Whole New World, wipe their hand. Especially if you're playing against like Red Blue, which is actually pretty less prominent, which I think the highest one was top 32.
Yes, that's a good point. So if you, with that mention, I believe it was top 32, but I think it was like 17th. Right in the top 32.
Yeah.
That was the oppressive deck in the beginning. We're like, oh, nothing's going to beat this deck, and it's already out of that. Now, I would like for that to be true with Ruby Amethyst, where it's like, oh, this is not, I don't think, but I think it's going to stay for a while.
Be Prepared and Maui, or like, Be Prepared, Maui, Lady Tremaine, it's like, it's very hard to get rid of red. And I still don't think people understand the potential of Scar. I know you laugh at me every time I talk about that card.
You just always mention it.
It's just such a good card.
I prove it.
It's like that other good card that you're going to talk about in a little bit that did actually fluctuate. We kind of forget the Mufasa.
Oh, yeah.
Did forget to fluctuate a little bit.
Spoiler alert, the one that we're talking about, quote unquote, the most right now, but also not because of cooking time. Look at this. Look at this little piece of candy in there.
Yeah.
For you. There's a Scar in there.
So this is the fourth place deck.
Yeah, so I didn't shout out anybody else's name, so I'm not going to give this person's name out, but Ruby Amber, that's what the name is. It's the Mufasa package. It's effectively a deck that I'm working on and have been honing and crafting. Whole point is to get free stuff with Mufasa. But this build is completely
songless. There's
sideways for me. Yes, it is songless for that matter. There's the two Pongo and Goofy evasive characters are interesting to me. I'm not sure what the thought process is there. Evasive is good.
I was
I'm
going to
not
say, I
saying it's a
think
bad
most
thing,
of it
but-
is certain decks don't run, and I know red purple doesn't run much evasive other than if they run the Pascal, which a lot of decks don't.
Right.
I think being able to just turn for 2 with evasive and force them to attack it is really tough.
I don't worry about Pascal because unlike this deck, I have Teeth Inhibitions, and I'll just
Right.
bounce it off any of my giant butts that I have.
And I think one of the things that I really like about their deck is the Scar. I just think I would cut the stitches and put more Scars and Maleficents, because the big payoff card is the Maleficent in the Scar, and maybe you can make a case for the Tremaine. But if you only run 1 Scar and 2 Maleficents, how many times are you really hitting them?
Yeah, with the dedication to a deck where there's so little songs and items because you really do want to hit off that Mufasa. You're right. The real quote unquote payoff cards. Tremaine is a payoff card, so
Yeah.
I disagree with that slightly. But so 4, 2 Maleficents, and a Scar. That's 7 cards you
Right.
can hit. That's not really that impressive. Now to them in their deck, they have the Stitch, which we're saying we don't necessarily agree with, but they also have the Queen. So, but those are both also payoff cards.
Yes, but to me, the Queen is one of those cards that shifts for 2, and you like to establish it early. The Stitch doesn't do much for you other than if you exert it. I mean, it turns for 3 if you exert other cards you draw with it. But like, how many times are you really going to want to exert? Other than, I guess, you can exert Simba and draw, and it gives you the bodyguard.
But also later in the game, you can exert any of these because you don't care about them. So,
but
I am still on the fence about the Stitch. I am still on the fence about the Queen. But this build seems to work well enough for them. But that being said, it's cooking time. So as we were saying, the thing that I have been working on that we'll discuss today at Cooking Time is my Mufasa deck. It has a couple of different names. The first one was M Cubed, which was Mufasa Murder Machine. But then I changed it to the Maniacal Mufasa Murder Machine, and then I just started going crazy with alliteration, so I stopped there to be nice to myself. I had Dial M for Murfder. And then I had Be Murdered, but that one doesn't work when you're writing it because I don't get the sort of cadence you're supposed to say it. But long story short, it's effectively your Ruby Amber list, kind of like the one we were just talking about. Mine is a little bit different in that I do run some songs. So the whole thing about Mufasa is you get scared when he is banished that you're going to not get something off the top. That is the downside of my deck. I run 4 Teeth Inhibition, currently 4 Be Prepared. I was thinking about putting that at 3. And 2 Dinner Bells. So as of right now, 10 cards, a sixth of the deck, you're going to whiff on a Mufasa. But Mufasa is mostly what it's built around, but it's not the only thing that it can do. So I do run the Minnie Mouse because I like to do Minnie Mouse turn 1 and then a Teeth and Ambitions turn 2 or turn 3 if you're going to sing it with a 2 cost, such as the Simba. Simba actually feels nice when you get a hit off of Mufasa. I was telling you that earlier. It sucks that you went from a 5 cost to a 2 cost, but nonetheless, you are now putting a bodyguard into play that they have to deal with.
Yes.
That's been really helpful. I run both the 2/3 Snow White Lost in the Forest, the one that heals when it comes into play, and 3 of the Well Wisher, the 6 cost that does the Hades ability every time it quests.
Yeah.
So I've been finding that really good because you'll sack a Mufasa, turn with Snow White to get the Mufasa back in your hand, put it right back into play. It's like bounce, not quite.
It's just nice when you can get things back from the discard, like if you lose a dragon or a Stitch. It's like it just being able to, especially Rapunzel's too. Rapunzel's get discarded, you want to heal more.
Yes.
Quest, get Rapunzel back, draw cards.
So
but you know what this deck is missing?
What is it?
It's a Scar.
I knew you were going to say that.
This deck needs Scar.
So I want you to make this deck. You said it with the last person's build and mine. I want you to make this with Scar and show me
make it better.
Apparently, I want to see it. But as you were saying, I do run the Rapunzel. I think it's really, really useful with all the different sources of damage. Runs good off of her creepy versioned mother, Withered and Wicked. You all right over there?
Yeah.
And we're both dealing with the January illness / December downfall.
The very thematic Mother Gothel and Rapunzel play.
Yes. The Queen of Hearts, I really like the 2 cost that Rush is in for 2. That's the only one I'm currently iffy on. I really like Rush, and I think it opens up a lot of doors. But 9 times out of 10, I'm just using it as a 2/2, which means I could use it I could use that as a different slot. I was thinking about trying to squeeze some of those queens in there, which that would save me some room to do, but I'm not sure. I run 4 of the Dock because that just makes things cheaper. I don't run the lanterns like we saw in the build over there, so I do need that extra source of cheapness. I run the 3 cost evasive 1/3 mini, and then it's just your payoff cards. So I have 3 Maui, 3 Snow White as we previously discussed, 3 Tremaine, 3 Stitch, and 3 Maleficent. So I don't have a 4 of any of them, but it just opens up a couple of lines of play. I really wanted to have 4 of the dragon just because I have 4 of the dragon. Hey, why not? But I feel that it's fine at 3 if you ink it early. It stinks, but otherwise you can get some pretty solid value out of it. And the other thing I run that I do not see anything else running is the Dinner Bell. I've had a lot of opportunities to draw important cards off of Dinner Bell. You don't want it to be your 4 drop, so I only have 2 of them. Mm-hmm. But it has saved me in a couple of different situations. I think it may be a little too slow, but otherwise the only card draw I have is the Stitches and the Rapunzel. So drawing off the top is a little scary with this deck, although you're playing cards off the top with Mufasa.
Right.
But I have, in the past 2 weeks, because I built this right after Christmas, I guess that's 1 week, I think I've played it about 20 times on ladder. Other than a string of losses I had from all the decks yesterday, it's fared pretty well. I think I have like a 62% win rating or 63, something like that.
Yeah.
Which is solid. Also depends what you're playing against. It's really fine against aggro. It's fine against Steel Song for some reason, although the scariest thing is when they have a 7 cost Cinderella Stouthearted. That one is a little scary. But you could throw a Maui and any other thing that does 1 damage at her and it finishes her off.
Nope, because it has resist 2. It deals 3 damage.
Okay. So she takes 4. She don't take. So that deals her 1 damage. Yes. So.
Mufasa. Yeah. You can throw Mufasa at it.
You can throw Mufasa at it. You can throw Mother Gothel at it. You can throw Lady Tremaine, Snow White, Stitch. There's other ways. Either way, that card is a little scary, but it does well against that. And the thing that it struggles against is a well-played Ruby Amethyst. And that's a bad thing to struggle against, but I feel like a lot of decks struggle against it. I don't feel bad about it. But this is my new baby that I've been working on. I've made some tweaks to my other decks. We can discuss that next week on Cooking Time. We can just do maybe some tweaks in that.
I was going to say next week we can talk about my better version of this. No.
Yeah, we'll talk about your better version.
My also changed version of
wanted
this
to talk about an aggro deck next week.
Yeah,
I believe, right?
Once, me and John were helping Josh. Shout out to Josh because I know he's definitely listening.
Yes, one of our dedicated followers. A shout out to Alice as well as our number 1 and number 1. So thank you guys for continuing to support us. I really like this deck. I really want to play against everybody with it. So I don't know, send me an invite on the thing. But I'm gonna put this up on Dreamborn.inc. We're gonna put it under our joint account, but it's called Mufasa Murder Machine. You'll see it with the 2 colors. Give me your comments. Give me your questions. Give me your concerns. Let me know how I can make this better. So I realized that was a short cooking time, but we wanted to spend a little more time on our other 2 segments today. So as I had sort of noted last week, I wanted to talk about value cards. I do need to put a pause because I just saw something in my notebook. 2 new survival cards. I know we talked about survival cards 2 weeks ago. I realized that there are 2 more. And it is in the 2 colors least represented. It is in Amber and Sapphire. The Amber card is Christopher Robin. So Christopher Robin,
you love that card too when it came out.
I just wish that it did something more. When it activates, you get that extra 2. Mm-hmm. So all you need to do is have already had that in play and keep your guys alive. So that technically counts. Same with Grandpappy if you heal while he's in play for that extra 2 before they finish the game. So more Grandpappy than Christopher Robin, but they are both. Yeah, I just wanted to do that. And I guess while we're on the forgot to talk about things train. There were 2 interactions I had via draft that were really cool.
Shout out to Jan.
Shout out to Jan number 1.
We're late for that. If Jan even listens today,
he's definitely listening. For number 1, he came up with the idea of sort of chaining support to add up to an Alice, but he was doing it with Pain and Panic. So he would use Pain to pump Panic. Panic would be 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. Do his thing, then turning for 3 because he got boosted because his is bigger, moving that up to what did he hit? He hit something else that cost 3 and then hit the Alice 1 time in a chain, and got, I don't know, it was like an 11 lore or something. It was very impressive. So I then messed around with a green-blue build to try and make that happen. And I played it on the ladder a couple times. It was a lot of fun. It worked okay.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool combo, so I got to give him credit for that. And then shout out to Alice for coming up with the idea with Merlin. Now, remember I told you the Shapeshifter basic Merlin was my most disappointing out of the Merlins?
Not anymore.
No, because she used it with the Merlin, 2 Hay-Hays, and then one of the Mims that was bouncing. And managed to bounce something with a Mim and then attack with both Hay-Hays. And those count as bouncing back to your hand in turn for 4 with Merlin. It was a very interesting play and really opened up some thought processes when I'm doing my drafting. So shout out to her for discovering that. Just wanted to take that quick time there. But as far as value is concerned, so value means a lot of different things. Mostly it's just getting a lot of bang for your buck, just a great efficiency for, a given price.
Yeah.
It usually allows you to follow your curve or go above your curve. And every single time you do it, you're gaining board state. You're just doing a little bit better than your opponent when you get to do it. So what I did to come up with both exemplify the idea of value and give you some examples of what it is. I put together, again, similar to the Rise of the Sump Pump, I put a list of my value cards in here. So I put 5 of each number, so 5 of each price, plus some runner-ups for the lower numbers, just because I wanted to give them a shout out as well. Because that's the only way I could figure out how to do this, because there's so many, actually in 3 cost, by the way.
16 of them?
Yes, there's 10. There's 10 of the 3 costs, but other than that, everything there's only 5 of. So I'll take a little bit of time to explain why each one is 1. So starting with the first one is the 1 cost Cinderella. That's an obvious value because it is a 1 body that can sing for 3. It opens up an entire deck, and it has a 2 butt, and at 1 a 2 butt is something.
Right.
So I really just like to be able to sing songs with her, and she also evolves into a really, really powerful card.
Right.
I just think you're getting a lot of value because of the excess money you get out of it. You're turning for 3 effectively when you're singing songs with it. So I just think it's a solid card in that. My next one is Pascal, because how many times do you kill a Pascal? Like, you don't. You just let it keep turning, and eventually it either kills itself, or you find that kill spell.
Or you look and they're at 18 and they're about to turn with 2 Pascals, and you're like, uh-oh.
Right. So he always turns for 2, maybe 3 when you're playing it correctly. So that is, I would love to pay 1 to gain 3 lore. That feels nice. So such a pain in the butt to kill. You just get a lot of bang for your buck. That's a 1/1. It's an evasive card for 1. So you just get money out of it. Next card I have is Befuddle. Now, mind you, I have never once played this in a deck until the most recent purple decks I've been building.
Right.
I really thought this card was terrible. Turns out it's not.
Yeah, no, Josh used it against me a couple times the other day when we were playing it. It was like, it's the one that bounces, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You return a character or item with cost 2 or less to its player's hand.
And he bounced me, and I was like, thanks, Josh. I was going to use that next turn. It's like, it's not like Dragonfire or the Be Prepared where it's like, oh, it's killing it. But it's like, especially if it's early game when you're using that on like turn 2 or 3, that really can slow someone down if they have one thing on the board or something. It's like, well, now you got to rethink your whole strategy because this card just got bounced. You can't use it.
There's so many relevant cards at 1 and 2, which is really what I'm talking about right now, that it feels really good to bounce something and then do unexpected things. Speaking again of Pascal, you're like, oh, I turn with Pascal because I have another thing in play. Oh, well, now you don't have another thing in play. I'm going to deal it the 1 damage that it needs to get knocked out.
Right.
I've seen a lot of really silly plays with it, and for having never played it, I added it to this list because it's just such a good value card. You know what another good 1 cost value card is?
It's Popsicle.
It is Popsicle. It's just so good. For 1, you draw a card. Now, normally I don't like cards. It's just 1, you draw a card like that. The peering one, where you can look at your opponent's hand.
Nothing's hidden.
Nothing is hidden, right? It's not bad. I don't really like it. The improvise, where you get to draw a card and you get to make something a little bit bigger.
Yep.
It's just not worth it. But this is is an item. So it exists as an item, which opens up other cards that are really good. But you get two things out of it. You get to draw a card, which is solid enough. It's replacing itself. Then you're setting up a little heal, like 2 damage. Excuse me. Makes a big difference when you heal that 2.
Yeah.
A lot of things are 3 and less. So 2 damage kills something, fine. But if it doesn't, you might be just putting something back to full health.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's just a really good. I mean, being able to heal something is always it's not very rare in this game, but right now it's very sparse. You have Rapunzel, you have the 2-cost Snow White, but there's still very few things that heal. So being able to just banish something and heal in the middle of your turn, you don't have to pay to put it into play. You pay early and you get a card. Feels really good.
And it is an item which matters in Sapphire.
Yes.
So that's my next one, and my favorite of the 1 costs is the Captain Hook Forceful Duelist.
Yeah, I mean that's just you love. I
have that in. I have a if not a 3. I think I have a 3 in 1 deck, but a 4 of in all of my decks with Steel. It is such a value card, especially if you can kill something that only hits for 1.
Right.
There are so many things that only hit for 1. And when you kill that thing that only hits for 1 and you get to do it again, even if somebody revenge kills you, you're still getting 1 more damage on something before it gets knocked out.
Right.
You just leave it there. It's a kill spell, and you just get so much value out of it. You do so much more damage than 1 should afford you.
Right.
So I really, really love that card, and I think it's important in all Grey decks, to be honest. My runner-up is actually 4 different cards, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the 1-cost 1/3s. So that's Olaf, Flynn Rider, Minnie Mouse, and Tiana.
Flynn Rider.
It's just it's a lot of butt for 1.
We like a lot of butt.
Big butts cause big problems. Teeth and Ambitions, you can throw it at one of your own guys to kill one of their things with a willpower of 2, and you're still there. It's just a body that's annoying to have to deal with.
Right.
So that's my 1s. 2 costs. So I know you already looked, but you had to know this one. That's your favorite 2 cost of all time, Simba. Simba punches way above his weight class.
Rob's least favorite card to play in set 1. Play against in set 1.
Oh, okay. There we go. So Protective Cub, it's the 2/3 bodyguard. It's so good. It just turns people out of the game. They were like, okay, you're turning for 1, you're turning for 1, you're turning for 1, or you're turning for 2 and turning for 2 if it's with Lilo or Maleficent, all of these things, and then they just slap a Simba up there, and you're like, oh my god, I gotta kill this thing.
Right, and on turn 2, when you have to go through the Simba to kill the Lilo or something,
which Captain Hook does, by the way.
Which Captain Hook does do, or I know I see it on your list, so you can talk about it after that pretty blue animal killer over there.
Oh yeah,
but it's especially early game if you don't have that answer, you're stuck like trying to figure something out, and it's like Lilo's going to turn for 2 at least one more time.
Exactly, and you can always just get some value out of it because every time you put it down as a bodyguard, you got to go through it.
And if it doesn't die, you get 1.
Yeah, they were going to attack your stuff. Well, even if it gets 1 shot, it's still 1 attack that's not going at the guys that you wanted to protect. It's the money train, and it belongs, I think, in nearly every single Amber list.
Yeah.
My next 2 cost is the Snake, Madam Mim's Snake. The 2 cost 3/3 that bounces. We already discussed how powerful bounce is. This just lets you do the same thing that we were talking about with Simba, where you're protecting it, and instead bounce it to your hand, so that protects it as well. And you're establishing a 3/3 at a 2 cost. It kills things. You'll throw this at anything. You don't care what it kills, as long as it's dealing 3 damage. It's saving the card that you want to save, getting you that extra enter the field trigger. And it's a 3/3, so it's just well costed. I know we originally weren't big on these with like, oh, you got to pay more for it, but the pay more is part of the bonus.
Right.
Next one I have is the Enchantress. I've been using that since it came out. Everything I have with green. It's just an easy way to continually turn for 2. And I said the thing. Every time you turn with it, they have to decide, okay, do I want to waste this creature, I always say creature, this character that I have just to take out that 1/1. But yeah, that 1/1 is just like a Lilo and just like a Maleficent. It's continually turning for 2.
Except it hits for harder.
Right. So it's a fun revenge card where if you're not getting the value of turning for 2 every turn, you're taking something out with you most likely.
Right. As
So
long as you listen to us every week, you get the full value of turning for 2.
oh, nice. My next and technically favoritist in 2 cost is Flynn Rider.
Flynn Rider.
Yes, very, very Australian. So Flynn Rider, charming rogue. He's the 1/2. He also turns for 2, but whenever he's challenged, the challenging player chooses and discards a card. So that is when he is challenged.
Right.
So if he gets attacked by something that only does 1 damage, they still have to discard a card.
And then do it again when they kill it.
So similar to with Enchantress, we're like, oh, do I want to swing that thing and not take 3 damage just to take this out? Or do I want to take that out so I can stop turning for 2? I have to discard a card. And getting established with those cards that are in your hand is so hard with draw being so sparse that, I mean, discard is a strategy for a reason. It's
Right.
You're just getting a lot of value out of it. You're most likely at least turning for 2 and at least discarding your opponent's card.
Right.
So isn't that something you would do for 2 cost?
Right.
Absolutely. My last in the 2 category is LeFou Instigator. When you play this character, ready chosen character. It opens up so many things. I could have vacuumed that for you.
I think that speaks for itself with the LeFou. It's like being able to turn for anything, especially late game, and play the LeFou back down. So it's, even at the cheap cost that it is, being able to force your opponent to either hit you with a kill spell or just be able to, or have to exert you in some other way to kill you is just very...
It prevents interaction, and again, it's still a 2/2 body, so
Yeah.
you're doing a very important thing, and then having a guy in play to do more with.
Right.
So I've been getting a lot of value out of that card, and I think that any of these cards you'll see, you're just above your weight class. You're for 2, you're getting all of this value. My runner-ups are as a pair as well. This is the 3/2 evade killers. That's Jafar and Cruella.
Yeah.
We already talked about how those are already undercosted. 3/2s at 2 are undercosted. Excuse me. And the fact that they can also attack evasive characters. I killed so many. People don't even realize that they can attack evasive characters, and they'll just turn with Pascal. And I'll be like, oh, pluck. You can do the same thing to a Minnie Mouse. Speaking of that Minnie Mouse, that is the first of my 3 costs. It's a 1/3 evasive. You're just going to be turning with it multiple times. That is worth more than 3. It's very simple.
And it was one of those cards that flew under the radar for a long time, and people started putting it in their deck because it was like, hey, now you know red's already oppressive. Let's throw something that is now hard to kill into the deck.
I really like that. So that's my first. Now remember, this was a bigger number. Most things cost 3. That's why I think the more things cost 3 in the game than anything else. So that's why I went with 10. So similar to the Cinderella in cost 1 is the Ariel in cost 3, except for not only does she do the singing, which I already told you was an overvalued thing that she can sing for 5, she also does the musical debut where she can search for a song.
Right.
So it entirely unlocks the majority of the Steel Song deck. But otherwise, you can still play it in Amber. It's still just a good card.
And search is very few and far between anyway.
In general at all, right? Next is one of my favorite new cards is the 2/3 Doc. It's a baby Mickey Mouse. When you turn with him to quest, you get to pay 1 less for your next character, and just the value train. As soon as you do that one time and pay 1 less for something, it's already done what it needs to do. That it's still just way better than
turning for 2 every turn just makes it feel better.
So it's already a lightning rod because it's giving you that extra resource, but it's turning for 2. So everybody goes after that. So you're still establishing your board while they're worried about killing that thing. So you really only get 1, maybe 2 uses out of it. But even at that, it's still worth the price. Yeah. My next is one of my favorite cards. It's the Madame Mim Fox. There is so much value in this card. Again, we already talked about how bounce is being used usefully as opposed to being a detriment. It is a 4/3, so it's a big body for 3, and it has rush. So you're doing all of these things, killing whatever you want. Whenever I send this at something, I don't care if it dies. I'm just like, wow, I just managed to save what I was trying to save, and I'm going to hit something in the face for 4.
Right.
And the best thing you can do is hit something that doesn't kill. Anything that hits 2 and less, you hit it for 4, then something is getting hit for 4 again. So you're getting 8 damage out of this for 3. And you also, again, save the thing that you wanted to save. So big value there. My next one, I believe everybody's onto this card. They already know about it. That's the 3 cost Maleficent. Just replaces itself with a card when it comes into play. That's just good value. That's hand and card advantage. So there's nothing bad to say about that. There's nothing quite like doing another really good 3 cost card called Friends on the Other Side by singing it with her. One of my other 3 costs is Friends on the other side. It's kind of, these cards have the same slot actually written down as Maleficent / Friends because they work so well in tandem with each other. So both of those are on there. The 3 cost Cheshire Cat. I still play that in all my green decks. It's not all there. Not only the thematic. I'll save you the stuff on that. But it's just an 0/3 that turns for 2. But every single time it is banished in challenge, the thing that finished it off goes with it. Now most of the people play around it, but you're still taking something with you while you're usually turning for 2 or 4. So you get a lot of value out of that. The Jasper is my next. The 3 cost Jasper. Now I didn't get a lot of use, but was a prominent key in one of my green decks I was playing before. I see it in other people's decks. It's just not quite in the meta right now. But it is a 2/4 that turns for 1. That's not great. But the body of a 2/4 is good at 3 cost. And you are locking your opponent's big quester out. And I feel that power of kind of preventing them from getting resource is extremely powerful and undercosted at 3. The other card that does this costs 7.
Right.
So I think you're just able to do a lot of silly things you wouldn't otherwise expect to. The next and second to last slot is actually 2 cards together. It's Mickey Mouse Detective and Winnie the Pooh Having a Think. Whichever one you want, they do effectively the same thing. That being said, I personally prefer the Winnie the Pooh for the turning for 2, the bigger attack stat, and the fact that you can put something into play ready.
Right.
So you're still getting the same timing value. It just has to be alive, and that's what people's arguments
Winnie
are.
the Pooh is also inkable, which I think makes it a whole lot better.
It's just better in every way except for the fact you don't get the card immediately.
Right. And it's whenever you quest too, so it's like it could die, but that's very rare. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't die, and even on your next turn, you can use it more than once, where the Mickey Mouse is a one-time thing. And I think Mickey Mouse would be a lot better if it turned for 2.
Sure.
But at a 1/3, you're not killing anything. You're getting that, and you're just going to sit there and turn until someone deals with it.
So Mickey does its thing, and then it's kind of just a meh character to have in play.
Right.
Winnie the Pooh, once it survives for a turn, is just 100% better at that point. But I see the argument where, that could get smashed, or any combination of cards to get rid of it. Okay, well, I spent 3 and they spent a bunch of resources to get something for it. I still think you're getting value out of it. So my last most valuable gray card is Benja, Guardian of the Dragon Gem. The reason is there's so many key items. I'm thinking lanterns. I'm thinking popsicles. Sardine can I'm seeing in a lot of things. That's actually really scary. The spell book. There's so many things that if you... Flute, good point. If you don't interact with their items, they're going to overrun you with them. So... also happens to turn for 2 and is a king, so it gets boosted by the Duke, which is fun. So that's I know it's a bigger chunk, but I think there's just so many good cards at 3 cost that you got to give them. I don't have any runners up in this because I already had 10 of them, so it's a little silly. Then at 4 cost, we have my boy Hades. There is 3 ways in this game to interact by getting cards from your discard pile into your hand. They're all uninkable. And I think this is the best of them, although the other one I do play, that's the Snow White. Does the same thing multiple times, but that 6 is a little scary sometimes. Nobody really saw this doing anything in the first half, just when set 1 came out. I used it to so much success. And there's so many ways that you can just play this, and whatever you're getting from your hand, you're either getting that extra ink you needed, or you are putting something else out that you wanted to recur with. The graveyard, and I think it's a 3/2. It's very thematic with him. I hate saying that, but he just brings something from the dead. Like, that's really kind of cool. But it's such a good card, and I think you get a lot of bang for your buck at 4.
Yeah.
My next one is Rapunzel. Talk to me about what your favorite card is.
God. Rapunzel's just such a good card. It's been a good card since set 1 came out. It will continue to be a good card for years to come.
It's one of the only ones that has maintained value because it's that good.
Right. Being able to heal from anything in general is very good. Being inkable is very good. Turning for 2 is very good. Having a 5 butt is very good. But on top of all of that, when you heal up to 3 damage, which is, I think, the most heal you can do at once in the game, minus chaining popsicles.
Some that heal all, and I believe... Hakuna Matata is like 3.
Oh, well, 4. Close enough. But this is the only one that while you heal that 3 damage, you also draw a card.
That's true.
For every single damage that you heal.
That's why there's a 2 on it. I have 2 of in this deck because it's one of the better cards. You're just getting so much value out of it. And worst comes to worst, I'm sorry that Anthony cannot control his cough, everybody. Worst comes to worst, you're using it as ink. So just a lot of value with that. Actually, you know what made it on here that you're surprised didn't make it on here?
I'm shocked that
the goat is great, but it's not like a ton of value. Yet you're getting, if you're not playing it correctly, it's a great thing. This you're getting value because you're playing one card to give you a guaranteed 2. So I have the Merlin rabbit on here. It was between the rabbit and the goat.
It's another card we poop on all the time too. Is the rabbit
that I crossed it out? I don't. It's just I see the value in it. I don't personally like the card as much because it's uninkable. But just throwing a rabbit in there, you don't care what it does. It draws you the card you wanted to, and then you get that bonus card and some damage. That's good at 4.
Yeah,
I can't argue with it. My next one is something I'm really big on right now, which is Daisy Duck Secret Agent. 2/3, and when she quests, the opponent discards a card. Discard we know is backbreaking, and she usually gets to get it off at least once, and then becomes a lightning rod, which again is always fine.
Yeah.
Also turning for 2 at the time. So again, you're getting money worth out of that. The 4-cost Hiram Flavorsham. So that's my next one. We all know. We all know how good this card is. It is. I can't tell you the number of conversations I have had with people that says, oh, well, it should have this and it would be more fair, or it should have that and it would be more fair. And it doesn't have that. It has all of the things. So it's a 1/6, which is fine at 4. That's a big butt at 4. When you play it and when it quests, you can banish an item to draw 2 cards. Yeah. So it's just you're getting so many cards off of this thing because it's hard to one-shot. And I'm not going to waste a Dragonfire on it. It's just, it is an entire deck in and of itself with the Popsicle I already discussed. I was originally going to put Nick Wilde on here because I think the recurring Popsicles is really powerful, but it's not as powerful as the reason that you want to recur Popsicles, right, which is to pop them with Flavorsham. My last 4-cost card, and one of my favorites, is Jafar Dreadnought. He's the 3/4 shifts for 2. He's Floodborn. He's one really cheap Floodborn character, which allows anything playing Steel to kind of play with those Floodborns, like Bucky, the Chief Bogo, things like that. You're going to get the Floodborn, but that's just the icing on the cake. It's a 3/4, and when you kill something on your turn with it, you draw a card. So you almost always, otherwise you don't attack with it. You leave it until you're drawing a card with it. So it replaces itself and is a big threat on the board and activates your Floodborn stuff. And it's a cool looking snake. So that's where I'm at on that. I know you can see my list now, and I will allow you to discuss.
Harse.
Yes. My first 5 cost.
So the first and the best 5 cost of all of these, regardless of what you say, is Maximus Palace Horse. He is, I think it's Palace Horse, right?
Yep.
I played him enough that
you should know that one.
Yeah. He is a 4/5, turns for 1. He has Bodyguard and Support, which automatically makes him just the best card in the game.
Oh, wow.
No, but it just makes him very good because being able to Bodyguard with a 4/5 is really powerful because you're normally killing whatever is killing you. Being able to also give that 4 support is really good. It's also Amber, so if you're playing it with Rapunzel, you can make Rapunzel a 5/5 and attack with Rapunzel if you don't feel like turning.
Right.
It also just helps when you want to play anything that's fragile, that especially has ward, like Rob's favorite card, Kuzco, which is also on this list.
Spoiler alert.
Being able to Bodyguard something like that, Kuzco, or some other cards we'll get into that I'll probably spoil your entire list by talking about. Like,
I know how you like to talk about things that you're looking at.
Yeah. So being able to Bodyguard things, even like the Cheshire Cat, forcing someone to go through the horse or find a backwards way to kill your 0/3 or your 1/3 evasive Minnie Mouse, just feels really good because they're exerting more resources to kill 2 things while you're just sitting there turning for lore.
So fun fact, my runner-up was Maximus.
No, it's not. Maximus is the best 5-cost value card.
So I'll quickly go through the other 5 costs in here. One is Mufasa. I already talked about it earlier, how I'm making a deck around it. It replaces itself with things that may cost way more than it.
Yeah.
And otherwise is so the reason I wanted to bring this up is 2 reasons. One is all the things I said before, but it's a 5-cost 3/3 that turns for 2. Like, I can get a 3-cost 3/3 that turns for 2. That's not that impressive. The fact that you are just, the sun will set that ability, or you just replace it with whatever you want.
Right.
Whatever you want to have up the top of your deck. It's so cool. And no matter what you bring back, you're still getting your money's worth. So you would pay 5 for Mufasa and whatever else it brings.
Right.
So that's an easy pick for me. The Queen, next one, the Commanding Presence, the 4/3 that shifts on 2. Shift 2 is silly on turn 2 because you can sing a 5-cost song with her, and her ability is super relevant. -4 to one of your opponents, +4 to yours.
Yeah.
You're doing combat math that shouldn't exist. So I really, really like that card. As shown earlier, Cusco's on the list because he's just so much bang for the buck there. Ward, so it's hard to kill. He's a 2/4 and he turns for 3. Now, a 2/4 uninkable for 5 is the only things about it that you feel are not value. But every single time you put it down, you can guarantee I'm going to use that next turn. There's nothing they can do, barring be prepared, to do anything to this card. So I am at 17 and I win next turn unless you have some very specific ways to get rid of it.
Yep.
Or I'm turning for 3 and it's killing something on the way out. No matter what it is. Now, people, again, you can work around it. I'll do 3 damage with something I care about and then kill it with one of my 1/3s. Fine.
I've watched you do that enough times to me.
Yes. So that being said, it's still taking something with it. So you're just getting bang for your buck on that one. Similarly, the 5 cost that I'm going to talk about now is Maui, in that you get the bang for their buck, but this one's immediate. So as soon as you play it, you just smash something in the face for 6. So you're using it to effectively kill most things. There's a few things that survive. But you're killing effectively whatever you want with it, and most likely surviving, so that if they want to revenge kill it, sure, they can revenge kill it with something small if they want, but you're still taking out 2 things for 5.
I think there's only one card on this list that has more than 6 willpower.
That's correct.
Yes.
And this one also has 5, so none of them on here. And these are all value cards. Right?
Yeah.
So it just kills whatever it wants and pretty much kills something else at the same time. Last 5 costs, and probably the best one, to be honest.
Most expensive.
And that's why it's expensive. It's the Beast, the Tragic Hero Beast, Emo Beast.
Just not as good as Maximus.
It's getting you extra card draw, and you can't argue with it. We've gushed about this card before. I'm not going to waste any more time on it, but put it in your decks. It's so good. You're getting so much. Every single time you draw one card with this, it's already paid for itself. And every card past that is just delicious. This episode, we're going to have to change to coughing.
Yeah.
This is not a touch screen still. I love that. I've been at work too long. So I'll just do the last few. I only picked some of these. Are not necessarily value cards because they're expensive. But I will just quickly say the Genie, the 6-cost Genie, because you're bouncing something back.
Yep.
So you're establishing a 3/4 evasive and getting rid of one of their threats. So that's value.
Yep.
Same thing with Lady Tremaine. You're establishing a 3/4 that turns for 2, and they are getting rid of something that they need, especially when it's the only card that they have. That's value. Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, again a 6-cost, but can shift at 4, and you're getting value out of it because you're putting 1 on everything, which is something you would pay for.
And when you kill something, you deal 2 to another thing, so you can kill effectively 2 things at once.
So you can kill something that had a 5 body with Tinkerbell when she comes into play, and then kill something that also had a 3 body. Yeah. So you're doing 8 damage effectively, plus whatever else you spread. And she likely survives that too because she has a 5. So just value for that. As you were saying, the only big one on here as far as willpower is concerned is Ursula. Ursula is strictly value because you are reducing your opponent's lore, which prevents them from winning if they have less lore, and you're drawing a card, and it turns for 3. 7, and it's hard to say, it's a quote-unquote value, but for 7, I feel you're getting a lot out of that. Same with Hades, the other 7 cost that's on here. For 7, you're getting a 3/6 that turns for 2, and you're eliminating a threat. Whatever threat you want that doesn't have ward is gone.
Yep.
The last 2, again, they're expensive cards, but what you get for them more than makes up for their... I got to talk about that one too. There's 2 songs at the bottom. I forgot. So 2 more expensive ones. Elsa, Spirit of Winter. She's an 8 cost. As a 4/6, that's fine at 8, but she is turning 2 things when she comes in and locking them down.
Yeah.
So that's expensive. You have to pay with 2 of the Pooh cards that just came out. I'm stuck. You have to have 2 Poohs, 2 Pinocchios because they're exerting it, so there's 6 there. And what's the cheapest 4/6 that turns for 3? You're just getting so much value.
And if you shift it for 6, you're turning for 3, and they can't ready. And if they have 2 things, unless they have something with a rush, you're turning for 3 again the next turn.
Exactly. That feels really good when you can shift it. I've been wanting to run other Elsa's just to shift it because this at 6 is backbreaking. Yeah. The 9-cost Maleficent, similar to Lady Tremaine, but is inkable. You can kill something. You get to pick what it is. It's a little bit better in that regard.
Unless it has ward.
Of course. The other two things that I missed is 3 is Let the Storm Rage On. I know you think that I only like that card because it's a card from Frozen. Every time you think that. It's just good. It replaces itself and does 2 damage and can be sung. It's a song. It's great.
Yeah.
And the last card is Be Prepared. You know why it's a value? Because you're eliminating everything.
And they're never prepared for Be Prepared.
I mean, you have to be prepared to be prepared about Be Prepared. It's just your opponent is obviously winning. That's why you're playing it. So you're like, okay, let's erase everything. And 7 is a good cost until something makes it cheaper, and then it is not.
Yeah.
So those are my value cards. I kind of sped through them, but the point is you just wanted to get ideas of why this is valuable, what makes it valuable. And when you're making decks, make this idea part of what you want to do, putting it together. Why does this need to be in my deck? Am I going to play this card over this card, or it's this turn? Do I want to play this or this? I have so many turns where do I want to play Enchantress or do I want to play Flynn Rider?
Right.
Happens a lot, but it's specific. If you're going against aggro, you want to go Enchantress because they don't care if they discard because they're getting rid of their cards anyway.
Right.
But again, these are the cards I think that are worth it, and you're going to get more bang for your buck.
All right, so to kick off our first podcast of the new year, we're going to look back at last year, or at least what we played of Lorcana last year. We're going to take one card from each color from each set, and we're going to talk about our favorite cards to play. Not our favorite cards, not our cards we think are the most competitive or the best cards from the color. We're just picking one from each color, so 12 cards in total. We're going to go by set and just talk about what they are and why we enjoyed playing them.
Start us off, Amber.
So I'll start off with
Set
Amber with my favorite card that I've raged about. You can take a guess.
The Hearse.
It's the Hearse. You already guessed it. It's Maximus. It's just, it was going to be Simba because playing Lilo Simba was my favorite thing to do when we played. And you would just be like, seriously, you got that out again?
Well, it's your start every single game. It's not fair. It's called cheating.
But that was just a very fun card to play. And I still think it's a very good card to play.
I don't disagree with you. That was one of my original 3, and I eliminated both the horse and the cat for Rapunzel.
Yep.
I was so big on this card to begin with. Remember, I'm like, oh my god, I gotta get these. There's this cool card, and then I was just inking, and I'm like, this is a terrible card. And then I remember the game because it was at Aquilonia. I remember I healed Giant Tink to be able to do another attack with her and have her survive so that I could turn for 2 the last turn. And I'm like, oh. And the reason that I was able to continue playing was because of the 3 cards that I had drawn. I had killed the other one with a smash. It opened up the ideas of, I get why this card is expensive and good. And now I put it in effectively everything that has Amber. It's just a lot of fun to play.
And there wasn't a lot of card draw then either. This was when almost every single deck would spit and sputter by turn 7 and you'd be playing top deck mode and it'd be like, okay, am I going to win? Nope.
Exactly. And it was nice to have that option for draw. So I like the sort of up and down I had with it. Yes, it's a very powerful card, but that's not why it's one of my favorites to play.
My favorite for set 1 for purple, this is mostly just from playing the starter deck, was Rafiki.
Oh, okay.
Rafiki was probably the equivalent of the Maui of this set. Maui of the first set, but it was a cheaper Maui that was uninkable. But it was just, I played a lot of the starter decks when I first started playing the game, so it was like the Rafiki was one of my
first rush.
It was my favorite card. It was just one of the good cards. Like when we were like playing with the starter decks, it was like me and Josh and Andy, and it was like anytime they'd put something down, it'd be like Rafiki, kill it, and it's like now you do the Maui, but it's like
still can do it with Maui.
Yeah, it's just like one of those things that at the time it was big in purple. Yeah. Like everyone liked to run Rafiki.
I do not see Rafiki anymore, and I don't miss it playing against it. But I can imagine, I never actually had a deck with it in there, but I can imagine it being fun because the rush mechanic, obviously being new as the game was new, was kind of like an upset. People were not expecting any rush at all. So I bet you got some pretty fun plays off of that. My favorite was Maleficent Sorceress. I just love to draw that card. I still love to draw that card. It feels so good to play that card. I love singing with that card. I love just letting that card die because it already did its thing. It's been a lot of fun playing that card. I know that it's kind of a boring pick, but it's... For me, whenever I draw that, I have a difficult time inking it, even if it's the right play, because I just love that card.
Yeah. My set 1 for green is Rob's other favorite card that I would play in conjunction with Maximus is Kuzco.
Which you had talked about when we talked about it earlier.
Rob's favorite thing to not be able to kill.
It just proves that it's valuable.
Yeah.
It's such a good card. I was one going to be my original pick, but I changed mine because I honestly thought that you were going to pick Cusco. So I'm glad that I was right in that card. I said the Cheshire Cat, not all there. I know I just talked about it a moment ago, but it's done a lot of fun things for me, and it's a cute kitten face that I love. It's honor of my new sexy mat that I have. It's Cheshire Cat. It's one of my favorite characters. Yeah. It's a really great card. I just love playing it.
So my red is going to be, since we're talking about Rush Maui.
Okay.
A lot of the early set one was just being able to just, kill things. It was very fun when people were trying to figure out the game, and I'd just be like, you lose.
Yeah, it's a 6/5. I never thought that card was good because that was the one card I did open Enchanted of. I'm like, meh, this card's not that good.
And you traded it away.
Yeah, well,
it was worth it.
He definitely wanted that card more than I did. But now I look at it and I'm like, oh, that card is so good. Yeah. So I'm with you on that. My pick is Aladdin Heroic Outlaw. You knew that.
That's what I was going to pick because that was the starter deck card, and I was like, Rob's gonna pick that. Let me pick another card.
I love that card. I don't see that in any decks. I have never played against that card on the ladder, and I've played hundreds of ladder games.
It's concerning. People are sleeping on it.
I hope they're sleeping on it, and I feel like they're sleeping on it because a 5/5 at 5 that. It doesn't turn for 2. You never turn for 2 with them. Not never, but rarely. You are killing something with that. Or they're not turning because they don't want to.
Right.
Because they don't want to lose 2 and you gain 2. It's the only thing in the game that does anything like that, and it's a lot of fun to play. I would play so wrong just keeping Aladdin in my hand, keep drawing cards and not be able to play it because I wanted to play it. I'm better now, but it's still a great card.
So my blue card, going back to oppressing people, is Hades.
I'm going to say yes because that's mine as well, but you go first.
Being able to just force someone to give up board, and especially, again, when there wasn't a lot of card draw, especially late game when you're playing that Hades, you're getting rid of something important. And if they don't have another important thing in their hand, they're just kind of stalling.
Yeah, you feel pretty safe against blue. Yes, there is... oh my God, Let It Go. I almost forgot that song. There's Let It Go, and you expect that to happen, but most of the stuff is on the board, and you can see what's going on. But you drop that Hades, they're not looking for it.
No.
It's just blop.
Yeah.
Get it away. And I remember just fun conversations. So, does both of the cards go into the inkwell? Like before we knew how to play the game, it brought up a lot of fun questions. So that shows you that it's like a talk about card. But it's really powerful. And again, one of the only ones that's holding a value out of the set, which shows that it's a powerful card as well.
Yeah. So I know we have the same steel pick.
Oh, you picked that one as well?
So I'll let you take this one because this is your favorite card.
It's still my favorite card in the game.
Almost took Tinkerbell Tiny Tactician just to be different because that is... To be fair, if we're going off a favorite, that is probably both of our favorite cards to at least say in the game.
Oh, God, yes. Tinkerbell Tiny Tactician. What beautiful alliteration. But the card we are alluding to is Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. Everybody knows I love this card. I have 3 Enchanteds. I'm working on getting that last one just because I love it so much. I already told you in the value section why it's a good card, but I've had so much fun playing that card. It's... Every single time you play a Tinkerbell Tiny Tactician, people have to be scared that you're going to play this.
Yeah.
And what that does psychologically is good enough. People just assume you have the Tink in their hand and they play differently. Yeah. I've played differently when I see somebody has Baby Tink in play. I'm like, I don't want to turn right now because I don't want to get blown out. But I had so much fun with that card. That's my...
Yeah.
Did you have any difference with it? Okay. It's just so much fun to play. That was the answer.
So my first card for yellow, which you also correctly guessed, which will go with my card with green, is the Queen.
For set 2.
For set 2, yes. Yeah. Now that we're getting into set 2. Being able to take 4 away from something and give something 4, especially with the Alice, with the Pete, which we'll get to when I talk to green. Being able to turn for more with a lot of cards or just being able to kill something always feels really good.
And I like that it can sing a 5-cost song on turn 2. That's faster than Ariel can sing a 5-cost song.
So
it's very fun. My set 2 card is guess Mufasa. You're too slow. Everybody knew that too. I've been talking about this since I saw this card first come out, and now that I've been working on some decks with it, and it's actually been doing stuff. It's even more fun to play.
Yeah.
There's just the ripping off the top and seeing what you get. There's nothing more fun in that. There's nothing more exciting, and also there's nothing more exciting than looking at a Be Prepared and like, damn it, I didn't get anything. But it's just a fun card that I just enjoy when it's on the field. I know something exciting is going to happen.
So my pick for purple is Arthur. I'm guessing
Mm.
yours is the goat.
Mine is neither of those.
What?
But you tell me about Arthur.
Arthur was a card I was very excited for since it came out, and I don't remember if both of us, or at least you, were very skeptical of it because it was when you
I was
read
on the
it.
fence.
Yeah, it was one of those cards where you're not sure, but the applications for it have shown themselves, and it's just very fun, especially being able to bounce things. It's like I love the bounce package, even though it's in a deck that's not the most fun to play against, or
Yeah.
but it's just one of those things. Being able to have all that bounce just is a lot of fun to just gain lore and be like your opponent has to play around the fact that you can get 3 lore off of turning with that Arthur anytime just for turning it. So if you don't kill it and I'm at 17 and I have something else in play, I don't even have to have something else in play. As long as I can play another character, you're losing the game.
Yeah, it's very powerful in that regard. I listened to the podcast on my drive up to my parents.
Yep.
And we were not high on Arthur.
Yeah.
We were both like, we see that there's some application, just seems a little iffy. But now I had a lot of fun with that card as well. I agree with you. That is in my bounce deck, but my card is actually Madam Mim Box.
Oh.
I love that. And it is maybe my second or third favorite card in the game right now. The value we already talked about, but I've had so many fun plays with that. Bouncing Aladdin's and then smashing something what did I kill? Well, my favorite thing to kill is cats. I love killing Simba with that because it takes the 2 and still survives and then hits a 4 again. And then you can bounce that one back to your hand with a snake, and it's just...
Yeah.
I've had a lot of fun playing that specific card, so I have to give it the nod, even though the GOAT is still one of my favorite cards.
My green, obviously, as I alluded to earlier, is Pete, Enchanted Pete specifically, because
Only Enchanted
Pete. I touched on Pete earlier. Just being able to turn for more, get that bonus, it just feels really good for that card.
And he's got Ward.
Yes.
That was the thing that sold me on Pete, was the fact that he has Ward,
Yeah.
and he could technically turn for more than Kuzco can.
Yeah.
You build around him. I as soon as you showed me that card, what did I do? I immediately went online and bought 4 of them because I'm like, this card is really neat.
Put the deck together. I was like, hey, here's how this works. You're like, okay, I'm going to order 4 shiny ones now.
I did, and now I have them, and they are sitting in my binder waiting for the deck that I want to build with him. But I'm very excited for that card as well.
And being able to have the +2 when you play an action,
Yeah.
especially if you play just in time, it feels really good.
Yeah, you can do a lot of little silly things with that. That's why I like it with the betrayal card, Vicious Betrayal, because it gives him it in one shot because it's an action.
Yeah.
My favorite green card from set 2 is Lucifer Cunning Cat. It's a kitten face, as was my other green card.
Of course.
But discard is so backbreaking, and another card that I was considering, although I've never played it, so I couldn't put it on the list, was Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, because I'm just now seeing lots of applications for it. Now that I see how it doesn't actually work in reality, but does silly things. When that cat sings it, just the thought of a cat singing Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo is great. But I digress. I just love the idea of discarding those cards and getting that control.
Yeah.
And it's a kitten face.
My favorite red card, to no one's shock, is Scar.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know. Crazy, right?
The 7
Scar,
cost
the 7 cost, basically free Be Prepared as long as everything's exerted. You just kill and ready. I mean, again, you laugh at me, but being able to hit something, that it's a 6/5, being able to hit something and ready again, and then hit something again, and then ready again is really good.
I can see the application, and you've done it against me.
Yes.
It does very silly things. However, the thing that frustrates me about that card is things have to be exerted. Right. Otherwise, you are not getting the value that card does have in it. But I knew it was your favorite card, so I'm glad that. And you've had a lot of fun scenarios. I've watched you do silly things with that card. My favorite card to play in red so far is actually the Queen of Hearts Impulsive Ruler. Now, it's not a very powerful card. It's just a 2/2 for 2 with Rush.
Yeah.
But it comes out of nowhere. People are more expecting it now because it's a little more popular. But I have killed so many things in aggro with it. They're just like, I'm just going to go wide with 3 Lilos, turn them all, and I just start plucking them down one at a time. It's just been a lot of fun. I was going to put Lady Tremaine, but I haven't had as much fun playing that as I've had the Queen.
So my blue card, again, I don't know, maybe not many surprises, Popsicle.
Yeah.
It's just being able to play that card.
You love that deck.
Yeah, being able to draw is just fun. I think that card will live on even past that deck. Its application is universal.
I think that Flavorsham and the Nick Wild is effectively a 12 card package that just unlocks draw in blue.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in most things. So I agree that is fun to play. My favorite thing to play in blue from set 2 is Pooh having a think. which is better than Think having a poo. Now that I just thought of. I'm very excited by the fact that they're continually giving ways to advance and accelerate ink.
Yeah.
I still think it's better than Mickey Mouse. I know people will argue with me on that. I don't care if I get the immediate value. I've already talked about that.
Yeah.
But it's just a really good card, and it's very thematic. I already
Yeah.
told you about it. So I just love playing it and putting it down and using it.
So we can talk about both of our favorite silver cards, because again, for silver, we have the same exact favorite card.
Cinderella Stouthearted. Yeah.
Attacking readied
Oh,
things,
man.
having resist 2,
Being a
be a
5/5.
5/5, shifting for 5. Like, what isn't good about this card?
Pick something on that card that is bad, and
It's inkable.
and it's Floodborn, and it's just a princess. It ticks all of the boxes. It's so powerful, and it's so much fun to play. There's a lot of fun gray cards. I like playing the Beast. I like Benja. I like the 4-cost Beast that deals 1 damage when it comes in. Just none of them are just having that same impact.
It's like Tinkerbell. You have fun playing the card.
Exactly.
You have that in play. Your opponent is pooping themselves, and you're sitting there all excited because you know
you are Think having a poo.
Yeah. So with that, we want to thank you guys for our beginning of the year podcast.
Yes, thank you for tuning in once again, and we're hoping to keep this going all throughout the year. You'll see us every week. Come hang out with us on Tuesdays.
Yes, and with that, we will see you guys next week.